Hello, everyone, and welcome to this first ever premiere edition of Orlando Magic Live, title still under work. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the editor of Orlando Magic Daily, and I'm joined by my good friend, Zach Oliver, Orlando Pinstriped Post. Zach, welcome to the internet.
Wait, this is what the internet is?
Maybe?
Hello,
Not quite
friend?
sure. Hello world. This is a test run. This is kind of an idea I had since the Magic don't ever really play on Thursday nights because TNT likes the New York Knicks so much. This was,
there are 5 games tonight. So
there are 5 games tonight, but
progress.
The NBA is trying to get the Knicks off TV, but we still get stuck with the Lakers, unfortunately. Since the Magic are rarely on TV Thursday nights, I thought this would be a good time to get Magic fans together in one place. So, I'm not expecting this thing to blow up or anything, but get the Magic fans together in one place, talk about what's going on with the team over the past week, maybe get into a little bit of what's going on in the league and where the Magic fit into that, and just kind of take stock of everything that's going on. And, of course, today, Zach, we had some very, very, maybe not very, very big news, but certainly at least one adverb qualifier big news in Nikola Vucevic getting an MRI after he was hurt last night in the game against the Houston Rockets. He's got a bone bruise in his right knee, I believe is what they said. He's out at least for Friday, possibly a little bit longer than that. We were talking a little bit before how long he might be out, but what are your initial thoughts on Vucevic's injury and what it means for the Magic?
I'm still a little bit confused as to how it's a bone bruise, considering there is no contact. But again, I'm not a doctor, and I have not played one on television yet, so I can't really fully comment on that. But I think that the Magic dodged a huge bullet here, because the way the Vucevic's knee buckled, hyperextended, whatever you want to call it last night, it looked bad. I mean, even if it was just a sprain to the MCL, that could have cost him, a game, or it could have cost him 2 months. So, getting out with just a bruise, which, look, it could take a while to heal. We don't really know the timetable. It's all going to depend on how he reacts to treatment. But getting out with, I would say, a relatively minor injury like that is huge, not only for Vucevic and the Magic, but, for the league, I think, because when you have Vucevic out there, it makes the Magic better, makes the games better, which then makes the league better. So it's a big trickle-down effect.
I mean, hashtag injuries suck, especially one like this. I think you're right. The Magic did dodge a humongous bullet. I'm not a doctor either. I do know my sister is a nurse, though, so she might be able to help us out a little bit if I can get her out of her shift quickly. But obviously, the Magic dodged a bullet. Usually when you see non-contact knee injuries, you fear the worst. But it was good that Vucevic was able to walk off the floor under his own power. He seemed in good spirits after the game. Fox Sports Florida interviewed him after the game. If we want, we can actually probably pull it up and play the YouTube video for you all here. But he seemed in really good spirits following the game. He said he was fairly certain that it was not anything more than a sprain, than something that wasn't anything serious. And so the good news is for the Magic is that it isn't anything major. It is something that he can rehab from and get healthier from, hopefully very quickly. I mean, I wouldn't we were talking, and again, we're not doctors, so we don't want to say that this is definitely the timetable, but he's definitely out Friday, probably going to miss Saturday's game against Philadelphia, probably Monday's game against Indiana. So you give him some time to heal and hope and just stay off of it, not, work on it. Hopefully that means that he's gonna be back healthy pretty soon.
Yeah, I think that we both kind of agree that, a potential target date would be maybe next Wednesday when the Magic are at home against the Los Angeles Lakers, because that gives Vucevic a week to heal. Maybe he sits out until Friday night when they play the Jazz, but as long as he's not out a very extended period of time, I don't think it's going to be too big of an issue for the Magic, especially considering the fact that after that brutal opening stretch, the schedule after tomorrow night starts to lighten up a bit with 4 games in a row against teams that are, not projected to be in the playoffs or maybe potentially fighting for an 8 seed or, maybe in the Jazz's case, a 7 seed.
Yeah, I've actually got the video loaded up here on my screen at least. If I can, if you hold on with me for just a moment on this Google Hangout, maybe I can screen share it or play it for everyone or not. Maybe probably not. What am I thinking? You can find the video of Vucevic talking after the game. I've linked to it a few times on Orlando Magic Daily. It should be available. I mean, he said it's just a sprained knee. He felt pretty confident that it wasn't anything major, and so the hope is that he'll be back, like you said, by the time the Magic hit that pretty big stretch. I mean, every stretch of the season is pretty big, but an important stretch considering the Magic's record next week. Before we get into the week upcoming, let's talk about the week that just ended. The Magic started their season. They're 1-4, but it doesn't really feel like 1-4, does it? Like it feels like this team has done a lot of really good things and has given themselves a chance to win. So are they where they should be? Are they, behind? What is your overall takeaway on the Magic in this first week of the season?
I still don't really know what to think, to be completely honest. I think that they're in a good spot, but at the same time, it should be a lot better. I mean, they should be at the very least 2-3, because they just turned into pumpkins on Friday night in the fourth quarter against the Thunder, and there was no reason for them to lose that game. People will make an argument that they shouldn't have lost the game against the Wizards. I thought that Washington was probably the better team overall that night, so I thought Washington probably deserved that one. Sunday was Sunday was their worst performance so far. They were dead.
Yeah.
And, you made this comment to me when we were chatting that it was kind of a schedule loss following that double overtime.
Yeah, it turned into one. It wasn't one when the schedule was made, but it turned into one.
Yeah, circumstances just kind of killed them. And then, last night they had a chance. They played a really good Houston team that, had Tuesday night off really well. And I think that they built on Tuesday night's performance, and they can use Tuesday night and last night as really a springboard to hopefully, turning those good to very good performances into actual wins.
Yeah, and I'm not big into the moral victory thing. Scott Skiles certainly is not. He doesn't want moral victories for this team right now.
Does Scott Skiles know what a moral victory is?
I don't think it's in his vocabulary, and that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong, that's a good thing. The question was asked whether you could take any lessons from this, and Scott Skiles tersely and correctly said, "I'm curious how much the former coach said that in the last 3 years." Like it's a thing that losses aren't good, and this team needs to win, and that's a good thing. I would say that at this point, the Magic have not played a really good game. I know Skiles has a very high standard for his team, and he's kind of striving for perfection in some way. He said before this season that he's trying to teach the guys the intensity they're going to need to play a Game 5 in the playoffs. So they're playing to a high standard in Skiles' mind. But what I've seen in the first 5 games is the Magic have played several games. The Chicago game, I would say, was 1. The Houston game, I would say, was 1. The Washington game, I would say, was 1. And, the parts of the Oklahoma City game we don't want to talk about, I would say, is 1 too. The Magic have given themselves a chance to win despite not having their best stuff. And especially considering the schedule they've played, that is some sign of progress, because I think in some of these games that they've played this year, they would have lost them last year. Like the game wouldn't have been close. They would have eventually gotten blown out. Chicago, they were trailing for 13, 14 points most of the second half. They kept it within that range and made a run. I don't think that happens last year. The New Orleans game, up big, getting the lead cut down to 5, especially after the way they lost against Oklahoma City. They may not win that game last year. The Houston game for sure. I think they get blown out. I think they fade away. But the thing was, yeah, Orlando lost those games, but they stayed in contact. They gave themselves a chance to win. And so it's a baby step forward. It's not the step you want, but it is a step forward that I think the team has to recognize and acknowledge.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with that. But I think the thing that worries me the most about what we've seen from them, and you've alluded to this some, is the offense still gets bogged down late in games when they need to be running the sets that are working for them in the first, the second, and the third quarter. For some reason, the energy level just takes a nosedive off Niagara Falls, and then guys just decide, hey, let's try to be LeBron and play one-on-one. They've got to still learn that they can't do that. That's not how they're going to win games.
Yeah, and I think we saw that. We certainly saw that against Oklahoma City. I think we saw that again a little bit last night. Elfrid Payton, I thought, took some pretty ill-advised jumpers, and Skiles admitted after last night's game against the Rockets that they're still tending to rush things a little bit. When they get pressed, when they get put under pressure, it's not quite second nature. It's not quite fluid to them, and it's something they need to continue to work on. And I think it's something that will get better as the season goes on. This is a completely different offense than what they've run before, and there is still a bit of an adjustment period, especially since so many guys, especially Elfrid Payton, missed time during the preseason.
Yeah, everything is completely different, and we're seeing them put together, a good defensive quarter here and a good, 6-7 minute stretch here, but they're not at the point where they can put it together for 48 minutes, which, look, that's going to come. You just touch on it a little bit. This team's been a healthy unit for, a week and a couple of days now? They've played 5 games together.
From Wednesday to Wednesday, it's been a week.
Yeah. So, I think there's some things to be worried about, but overall, I think you need to be pleased with the progress that they've made and where they sit, because, playing the way that they have against these 5 teams, look, I think you can kind of throw the New Orleans game out because New Orleans is...
That's not the New Orleans team of last year.
And right? That's not the New Orleans team that you might see in February, because when they should be healthy. And, New Orleans has kind of had some of the same issues the Magic had. They haven't been healthy, so you don't know what they could be this year, especially under a new coach, just like the Magic. Mm-hmm. Of course.
For sure. As the Magic caught them at the right time. There's no doubt about that.
And, I railed on the Pelicans a little bit on Friendly Bounce's open run today. I was probably a little harsher than I should have been, but, there's issues there that need to be fixed. But that's another discussion for another day.
Probably for another podcast.
Yeah. But, I think one of the biggest bright spots, the first week or so of the season has been Evan Fournier. He came into camp with a sprained ankle after injuring himself in the third place game in the FIBA European Championships.
Still scored 15 points on the sprained ankle.
Kind of struggled throughout the preseason to consistently find his shot. Had an absolutely atrocious game against the Wizards.
That was bad. And
then it's just like he flipped the switch all of a sudden, and he scored 24, 19, 30, and 29, I believe, in his last 4 games. What have you seen from Evan in the first week that's really allowed him to be so successful?
I think the biggest thing that I've seen is he is attacking the basket a lot more. I pointed this out after the Houston game in a sidebar that I wrote. He had the 30-point game against Houston, and he was walking off the court, talking to Emily Austin, the Fox Sports sideline reporter, sideline reporter for the game. And he said, I'm not shooting the ball well. He was shooting 7 for 10. So something was clearly not right, because I kind of tended to agree. Yeah, you're not shooting the ball well. You're not hitting threes right now. He was getting to the basket. And I think the one thing that Evan Fournier specifically did really, really, really well was he got to the basket. He found a way to get easy buckets rather than settling for jumpers that weren't falling. And that got him going. It's just like that thing your coach always tells you when you're not hitting your jumper, get to the basket. And that's exactly what he did. And it proved to be really successful for him, and it got him going. And, and also he was able to finish around the basket, which is another problem this team's kind of had in general anyway. But it was a positive sign that Fournier was doing that, and that kind of got him going. Just to clear up the stats on your point, Fournier had 22 against Oklahoma City, shot 8 of 21 that game though. 19 against Chicago, shooting 8 of 15, 30 against New Orleans, and then 29 last night against Houston.
Yeah, and you touched on the fact that he's kind of gotten going because of his finishing ability. Our friend Chris Towers, who is CBS's fantasy guru, had this tweet earlier. Fournier, within 4 feet of the basket, is 24 of 30 this season. From 25 feet and out, he's 6 of 11. And then from 5 to 24 feet, he's 10 for 44.
Okay.
So I think that really shows how much his willingness to put the ball on the floor and get to the rim has really, given him a nice little kick in the butt and kickstarted his season and really the Magic season, because if you don't get his 30 points against the Pelicans, you lose that game.
No, I mean, they needed every single one of those points from him. They've really needed everything from him because, as much as this team has looked better on both ends for stretches, there's been a lot of long stretches where they haven't looked good. And, Fournier hit 2 really big 3-pointers late in that game against New Orleans that iced it. I mean, whenever Orlando has a lead, you always kind of feel like they're on shaky ground just because they haven't proven they can hold on to those leads. And so when New Orleans made that run in the fourth quarter, Fournier was the one that shut the door. And more than anything, that game against New Orleans was the one time they actually ran their offense pretty efficiently in crunch time more than any other game this year. And so even against Houston, like you were begging the Magic, get the ball to Fournier. He's the guy that's going to create for you, that's going to run, that you can get to him, get the ball to him naturally within the offense and still kind of run your stuff, and he'll create things for himself and for others.
Yeah, I thought that was something that really hurt them, coming down the stretch last night and in overtime was, you had Elfrid Payton taking an ill-advised shot, or you had Victor Oladipo.
Yeah.
The play where he got the offensive rebound and then got the ball kicked out to him, and he shot, after I believe 2 or 3 seconds into the shot clock, that was an issue. Like that was a really bad shot. And I think that, even if you just run, 20 seconds off the clock and don't score, you still run 20 seconds off the clock.
Exactly. Exactly.
It limits the chances that Houston has to tie or even potentially win the game there. Because if it wasn't for Fournier finally getting the ball there late, we're talking about the Magic losing another tight one in regulation rather than overtime. But I think that kind of goes to show the fact that the Magic are still really searching for their late game situation guy. For all that it's been made of, Tobias Harris has hit some big shots, but he's still a little bit inconsistent. Victor Oladipo had his shining moment on Friday night against the Thunder when he hit that step-back 3 that looked like it gave the Magic the win, but ended up not because no one decided to pick up Russell Westbrook. So
and when you look at that again, they had the time to pick him up. They really like
there was still 3.5 seconds on the clock.
It wasn't that there was 3.5 seconds on the clock. If you watch that play again, from the time Oladipo makes the shot, Oklahoma City's kind of gathering themselves too.
Yeah,
and it's like a good 3-4 seconds before the Thunder inbound that ball. Like the Magic, like when I tried to remember that play, I kept thinking, oh, they got the ball in quickly to him, and so the Magic's momentary celebration really messed them up there, like Scott said. But no, the Magic stood there and kind of celebrated and didn't organize themselves the way they needed to defend that play. And yeah, Russell made an incredible shot to win that game, but as Scott Skiles said this Saturday when we met him for practice, they showed the play, they froze it, and they asked the room who was guarding Russell Westbrook, and nobody raised their hand.
I mean, I unfortunately wasn't at the game, and the camera angle that I saw while watching the game live was, fixated on Oladipo celebrating, and then
Really?
all of a sudden it goes to Westbrook bringing the ball up, and Vucevic is the only person there, and he gets his hand up late, and Westbrook banks it in, and they end up going to overtime.
Oladipo said it best that they needed to turn him once or twice. They needed to turn him and get him to change direction before to try and throw off the shot, because he literally just walks into that shot. We have, before we kind of move on, because I think we're about to transition into kind of the next thing we want to talk about, which is some of the guys that are struggling. Prof. Corey asked us here on the questions portion of the show. Feel free to drop us a question. And I just lost it because I don't know what I'm doing here. My favorite part of Fournier's offense so far is him getting into the paint off screens and dribble handoff. Do you think that's a possible way to get other guys going that way? Zach, I think that's a big part of this offense is moving off screens, and there's a lot of dribble handoffs off the perimeter. Do you think that the Magic can use this to get a guy like Victor Oladipo and Elfrid Payton going in the same way that Evans kind of worked at it?
I think that they could. The motion that their offense has had has been really good, for portions of the game, and they've run their offense really well. But again, it gets bogged down at times, and then those are the situations where I think you really want to try to get the ball to a guy like Victor Oladipo, who's he's proven that he has the ability to hit that big shot, and we know that he can knock down that 15 to 18 foot pull up jumper from the elbow, and he can spot up from three, or he can hit the pull up three. But I think actually running some action to, impede his defender is going to, help him get going, rather than him just dribbling the ball up and, I'm going to jack up this 25-footer and doink.
Or try and pass it to a guy that's covered, or have the offense slow down. I think what Prof. Corey is saying here is pretty much what the Magic offense is. When the Magic offense really works well, guys are in constant motion. They're moving toward the basket as they're catching the ball itself. Like when Friday's game, watch how when the Magic's offense is working, watch how guys catch the ball. You'll notice that they're often moving as they're catching the ball. And that puts a lot of pressure on the defender, because the defender is probably trying to catch up and doesn't have time to slow down, set the angle that he wants the offensive player to go at. And so I do think moving guys off ball screens is the exact way that the Magic are going to get their offense going. If you have, Elfrid Payton at the top of the key and Tobias Harris coming around to curl, catching the ball and immediately putting the ball on the floor and attacking the basket, that's going to be much more effective than, Elfrid Payton sending Tobias getting the ball to Tobias off a pin down and him just standing there and jab stepping, which we all know Tobias Harris is wont to do. Now, the same goes for Victor Oladipo. He sometimes catches the ball and stops, when really this offense is more effective when you don't have that momentary stop. You immediately get the ball on the floor and attack, wait for the help defender to come up, and then dish it back out for three, dish it underneath to Vooch, I guess now Dedmon, for a dunk. Put up a shot in the paint that way where your momentum's moving toward the basket, or as the case may be, sometimes back it out, try again, find an outlet. You want the defense to be constantly moving and adjusting to what you're doing rather than being able to stand still and get set. And that was the problem with the Magic's offense last year, and why I'm so encouraged by it this year is that we're seeing a lot more of that movement where the defense is stressed by what the Magic are doing simply by moving the ball. Because I think we all kind of recognize these guys are pretty talented and can get the job done. It's just a matter of doing it.
Yeah. You kind of hinted at it a little bit, but who do you think has been the biggest disappointment for this team through the first, week of the season? Is it Victor? Is it Elfrid Payton? Is it even maybe Tobias Harris?
Yeah, I'm going to say Victor, just because, and thanks Prof. Corey for the question. I'm going to say it's Victor, just because I expected so much more from him this year.
Yeah.
I think like most of us, I expected him to take that step up and become a bigger part of the Magic's offense and kind of become that a better, not necessarily a better player, because that's not the right word, but to really take that step up to maybe superstardom. And well, I think Oladipo has done a lot of really good things. He's been fantastic on the boards for a guard, especially. He's been dishing out assists. He's been doing a good job getting things in the flow of the offense. The jumper hasn't been there. He's been shooting really inefficiently. He's made some lazy turnovers. It just hasn't all come together for him yet, and so he hasn't taken kind of the step up that I suspected from him.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you that Victor's been the biggest disappointment. We saw him put together quietly a really nice preseason. I mean,
yeah,
I thought that especially in the first 3, 4, 5 games, he was probably the team's best player, and he was showing signs of being ready to take that step forward. But the lights really get bright when the season starts, and there's issues. He's still in the wrong place sometimes defensively. He's still making that lazy pass. His shot selection has been, I think, pretty poor. I mean, he's taken a lot of bad shots that I think
he's not finished. The big thing with him, especially with how much he gets into the paint, he needs to be able to draw fouls. And he's shooting 2 free throws a game if that, and that's a problem for the Magic. I'm
pretty sure I saw a stat that said the Magic's starting backcourt has combined for 14 free throw attempts through the first 5 games.
I mean, with considering Elfrid can do nothing but get into the paint, and Oladipo just throws himself at the rim, they got to get to the foul line. And some of it, and it's not that Oladipo isn't getting to the rim and putting himself in position. He's avoiding contact, and that's a problem. I mean, it's hard for me to sit here and tell Victor Oladipo take the hit. Like it's hard for me to say that just because I know I wouldn't. I'd be scared to death too if Dwight Howard were trying to block my shot and coming at me with this full frame at him. It's a tough thing to ask a guy to do, and in some respects you either have it or you don't. And now we're in year 3. We expected Victor to make the step up. He said, drawing a foul is a skill. It's something I've got to learn. Like a lot of this roster, it's time to learn these things.
I wonder this about Victor. He needs to not shy away from contact as much. Look, I think it's fair that he doesn't want to, because there's a lot of injury risk, and you've got to remember we're talking about a guy who broke a bone in his face last year. I think both of our understandings of it was just kind of a freak thing that happened in practice, but that's something that could happen in a game. If you drive and a player like Dwight Howard just accidentally comes down with his elbow and catches you in the face, you've got a broken bone and you're wearing a mask, and you're probably missing some time.
Yeah, or you're seeing double like Derrick Rose's.
Yeah. All right. Looks like we have another question.
We have another question. We're running short on time. We want to make sure that everyone gets to watch the TNT games tonight. A couple of decent games. Oklahoma City at Chicago. It's not bad, right?
I think the nightcap is Portland and somebody.
Oof.
Yeah, that's not great, but Corey,
Chicago and Oklahoma City is nice.
Yeah. The nightcap is Memphis and Portland. Will Memphis score more than 69 points?
Hey. Maurice Harkless makes his TNT debut tonight. And they handled Utah last night. I mean, Portland's been spunky. CJ McCollum's been a lot of fun to watch. They've been a spunky group early on here.
Yeah, but their backcourt has been a nice surprise, and I think that's how they're going to have to win games, because those are the only two guys on that team that can score more than 10 points.
Yeah. So let's get to this question here real fast. Casey Wood asks, do you think the Magic need one more shooting guard on the team because they start Fournier or play him off the bench? Do the Magic need another guard in that rotation? I think they've been pretty good on that guard rotation. They brought Shabazz Napier, and they're trying to bring Shabazz Napier into the rotation for better or for worse. They've played C.J. Watson at the 2 a little bit. Mario Hezonja is barely playing. Do the Magic need to shuffle up the backcourt rotation? Do they need to play Fournier more at the 2, or is he fine at the 3?
I don't think that they really need to add anybody. They've got the versatility that they have within the roster is big. In a pinch, you could even play Alfred at the 2 some. C.J. Watson can play the 2. Yeah. Shabazz Napier, who is,
you can play him with Watson or Oladipo, or even with Peyton if you're really
Peyton,
crazy.
Evan can play the 2 and the 3, and Mario can play the 2 or the 3. So, and then the guy who's been inactive, they still have Devin Marble, who can play the 1, 2, and the 3.
Yeah.
So I think that they're fine. Maybe that's something that you consider as the season wears on, if you're not completely pleased with the production that you're getting from some of the guys, especially shooting the ball. And a guy that's kind of gone unnoticed because he hasn't played, Channing Frye, could have value to somebody if the Magic decide to move him. And that's probably the biggest piece right now that they might potentially move this season. I wouldn't be surprised to see them stand pat, but again, it's 5 games.
When January comes around, we'll have to do the trade value machine. I think Evan Fournier is the most tradable asset on the Magic roster right now. Whether the Magic will trade him or not is another question. But I think the shooting guard rotation right now is fine. You're starting Oladipo. You have Fournier at the 3. If you want to go big, you put Gordon at the 3, Fournier at the 2. You can play Oladipo at the 1 if you're really going crazy. That versatility, like you said, is absolutely huge. The Magic can match up with just about anyone, with at least comfortably with the guys that they have. And so the question is, can they, can the guys that they have produce? That's really the key question. I think everyone wants to see Hezonja play a little bit more just because he's the rookie. He's the shiny new toy. But it's still a work in progress with him. He still looks like he's getting comfortable in the NBA in a lot of ways. And so it's going to be a little while still. So, Casey, thank you for the question. Hopefully we answered it well. And like Zach said, we're only 5 games into this thing. We'll be 5 more games into this the next time we talk. If we do this again next week, Zach.
Well, we'll have 4 more.
4 more games, something like that. We'll have played the Lakers. We'll have said goodbye to Kobe.
See.
No more Kobe at the Amway Center. Maybe, possibly, probably not.
Kobe might actually break something with one of the bricks he throws up. So.
Yeah, well, people need houses, so just keep building those bricks, Kobe. We believe in you. Zach, thank you for jumping on here and doing Orlando Magic Live, the first ever edition of Orlando Magic Live. Hopefully we'll be back again next week to do this again right before the TNT games, get you set for the NBA week, as Thursday's kind of like NBA night, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's still Thursday night football, but no one's tuning into Browns Bengals tonight.
Hey, Ibrahim Campbell is starting for the Browns tonight. Northwestern's very own Campbell.
Jonathan F. Football is starting tonight for the Browns too.
He is too. So I'll be watching the Bulls
Thunderbolts.
Yeah, Bulls Thunder. Well, thanks to everyone who joined. Of course, you can watch this anytime on YouTube. I'll post a link on Orlando Magic Daily. I'll send the link out as well tonight. I'm sure Zach, you'll have it up on Orlando Pinstriped Post as well. Thank you again for joining, Zach. Hopefully we'll be back to host this thing again next week. And thank you everyone for viewing. We'll be sure to make it a relatively normal time, probably 7:30. We're going to try and do half hour before the TNT game starts. So some nights it might be 6:30 as well. But we will get this out to you and try and make this a normal thing, so Magic fans have a place to kind of recap the week every week and then talk about the big issues the Magic are facing. Zach, you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, we're like Ernie Johnson. We're still searching for sponsorship to keep the doors open. Ernie does a great job with Nito Stat of the Night, even without the money backing. So we're hoping that somebody will open up their checkbooks and give us $1 each so we can make this work. But it's been real and it's been fun. And we look forward to hearing from our readers as the season goes on and continuing to get, good questions and some good solid conversation.
Absolutely. That's what this is all about. And that's, Magic fans are a great community, great grammar, apparently, great community. And we're looking forward to the rest of the season. It's just beginning. Thank you everyone for watching or listening to Orlando Magic Live. We'll catch you again next week. This has been Philip Rossman-Reich of Orlando Magic Daily for Zach Oliver of Orlando Pinstriped Post. Thanks again for watching and listening, everyone.